Everyone, welcome back to the workshop. And it's fall time. We're rapidly coming up on holiday season. And for a lot of you, one of your favorite holidays is Halloween. And so I'm going to show you how to design and make these little luminaries out of 1/8" plywood. These are a fun craft that you can do. It's a nice way to decorate your step, your desk, inside, outside, and you can get the kids involved as well. So we're going to go through the design of this, both in Lightburn and xTool, and then we'll show a few different lighting options. So if that interests you, you want to learn more about this, stay tuned. We're going to jump right into it. Here in the office, we're going to work through the design, and I'm going to start out with an online box generator. I like using these because there's no reason to do all the work yourself if you can use a tool that's going to help create it. Now, there are multiple ones, and in the past, I've looked at another. Today, we're going to look at one called MakerCase. So let's jump over into our web browser, and I'll have links for this down below, but if you just search for MakerCase, you're looking for this this site right here, but they give you a few different options for the types of boxes with MakerCase. And so if you're looking to make a storage item, you know, boxes with dividers, if you want round corners, or if you want a polygon, so it's not going to be just a four-sided square, something you can look at. But we are going to start out with the simple box. So we're just going to click on this, and it's going to bring up just a basic design. Now, this middle window here, you can scroll with the wheel to zoom in or out, or if you push and hold with the right mouse button, you can drag and kind of get a orbital view of the object. So just gives you a nice visual representation of what we're looking at. So what we need to do is input the parameters over here. You can decide if you're going to work in inches or millimeters, as well as if you want these to be the inside or outside dimensions. That could be important on things where you're trying to make sure things fit inside each other. Another important one to look at here is our material thickness. So you do want to measure your material and ensure that you're actually working with the right thickness. Now, they're listing 1/8 inch here as 0.118. It's actually 0.125, but you want to double check your material because a lot of them aren't a true 1/8 inch is not always 0.125 inches in thickness. So measure your materials, use calipers, and check that first. But we're going to start out with that. And then we can talk about open and closed, or edge joints, finger, T-slot, and such. So what I want to start out first is our basic dimensions. And this is going to be however big or small you want to make this. But we are going to go with something that's about 5 inches in width. And going to go about, let's say, 9 inches in height. And the depth, front to back, we're going to go 3 inches. So you see already it is kind of making our adjustments, and I feel it's maybe a little narrow and or tall. So let's back this off to 8 inches tall, but also make our depth 3.5 inches. This is kind of just a nice visual, getting it to be as close as you want it look. Now, since we're going to be making these kind of luminaries, and it's going to be kind of a paper bag look, we're going to actually remove this top part. So we're going to click our open, and you see it's removed the top piece but left the bottom piece. Now, the other thing we're going to do is go ahead and add edge joints. We want this to kind of interlock, and I am going to go with finger joints as opposed to T-slot joints. We don't need the whole, this would be like putting a nut in there and having it secured. We just want finger joints. And then the other option we can do is we can adjust the size of these finger joints. Now, the more finger joints you have, the more glue area you'll have, which can create a stronger joint, but these are decorative, and the more finger joints you have, the more difficult it is to assemble because you got to get glue in around all those corners. So I am going to actually basically just max that out. So we have as few finger joints. See, if I went the other direction, it would add a bunch in, and while that would create a much stronger joint, you'd have to work your glue in all those and then deal with cleaning them up. So I'm just going to max them out to have as few as possible. We basically have the 3 and 2 on the sides. So at this point, we're basically done with the design. We've got our dimensions right, and we can go ahead and download the box plans. So this will give you a preview of what it's going to set it up as, and we have a few options here. Panel labels, we don't need those, so I'm going to disable those. And then we can adjust our line formatting. So if you want to leave it red, that's fine. Or you can, if you know the color code, you can change that. it's real simple to change in our applications. And then also take into mind curve and corner compensation. Now, if you're going to drop this straight into your laser, you may want to drop your curve compensation in there, but you're going to need to know what what that value is. I'm going to leave this off because we can add that in our applications. At this point, we can either download it as an SVG or DXF. I'm going to just go ahead with SVG, and it will drop up into our downloads folder, and we'll be able to bring it over into our design application. All right, we've got Lightburn open now, and first thing we need to do is import our file. So you've got either your icon up here, or you can go to File and Import. Either way, that'll work to grab your file. And we saved it as an SVG, but I need to browse to the right folder, and I like to use Google Drive to organize all my files so that they're available on any of my computers. So I've dropped them into this Laser Files Halloween folder, and we've got box 1. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And now, again, as I mentioned earlier, they labeled it red, so that's going off of the layer here. I'm just gonna go ahead and click over my black layer. That tends to be my typical design and cutting layer. And now we can start playing around with it. I am going to grab, well, we got to ungroup these first up here. So, and then I'm going to grab these and bring them over kind of in line with these others. This isn't necessary. We'll do some adjustments for actual cutout, but it's a good visual. So we have our bottom piece here. We're not going to be doing anything with this, but what I want to do is add kind of a little bit of a fringe to the top of these, kind of just dress it up a little bit. And for that, we're going to want to use our node editing tool. So that's going to be this icon over here. And if you hover over it, you see there, it dropped down a menu, and it will give you all the commands you can use with node editing. So we're going to be doing a lot of inserting node points along the top to be able to add that fringe. So we're going to go ahead and click on this, and we will click on the first object. Now I do want to keep this reference line there. I don't want to be moving it around too much. What I first want to do is gonna drop in some node points. So I'm going to hover over the line till it changes icon. I'm going to hit I, and you'll see there it added a node point. I'm going to add another one here, another one here, another one here, and maybe one more there. So now at this point, we can actually interact with these node points, and I'm going to be basically interacting with every other one. So what I can do is I can bring this down, and this is kind of just a as you see fit. You can just drop it down like that. You can drop this one down maybe like that, and this one down like that. Now we can add more if we wanted to, but we don't want to overcomplicate this. Just giving it kind of the little fringe of a bag type look. And I want to make sure that we keep these end ones the same, because that's going to line up with the alternate ones here. So I don't want to touch these. I preferably don't want to touch these as well, just to keep our overall height the same. But it's, again, that's up to you how you want to do it. So we're going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these. I'm just going to be clicking on each one again, hitting insert a few times to add some node locations, and then dragging the middle ones down in any sort of pattern that I like to just create a rough one. And we'll continue this on with the rest of the other two pieces. All right, there we have our shapes. Our corners are going to line up. You can play around with this to see how you like the way it looks. But once we have that, we just have one more final thing to do, is we're going to add the decoration to the front panel. Now, this you can draw yourself. You can just take, some shapes, draw in some eyes that you want. You could draw in choose our line tool, draw in a triangle nose, such and so forth to create the objects. Or you can purchase vectors for a Halloween jack-o'-lantern face. However you do it, this is up to you. You can just drop whatever you want in. So I already have some pre-made that I've used on other projects. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those in. Got some jack-o'-lantern faces here. So these are vector graphics again, and we can just pick whichever one we want. So if we wanted this last one, we can come in and bring it on. We just need to bring it on to one of these kind of main faces, and then we can scale it to whatever size we want and adjust the height. You might want to have it more in the middle, depending on your light source. I just want to make sure that maybe the light isn't in an open area, so I might bump this up or down. And once we have that, we are basically ready to set this up for cutting. And depending on your laser and your material size, you might need to break this up into 2 or 3 jobs. But at that point, we can send it off to the laser. But let's also take a look at the same process in xTool Creative Space. So I've got xTool Creative Space open. Now this is version 2 something. They did just come out with a new version, so some things may be different if you're using the latest one, but I'm going to go ahead and do it in this one. And most of the tools should be the same. They just may have moved some of them around. But what we're going to do is go ahead and start again. We need to import our original files. So to do that in Creative Space, you actually, even though it says image here, this is the import tool. We're going to go ahead and open that up. Again, we're in my Halloween folder, and we want to bring in our box. Now, when it does this, it says, do you want to scale to fit on canvas? You don't want to click yes, because that will mess up all of your sizing. So go ahead and say no, displayed in original size, and then we will deal with the scaling and size, or not scaling and sizing, but we'll adjust it to fit the work area. So again, we need to ungroup it. So to do that, you can just right click on it and hit ungroup, and now we would be able to start moving items around to work with them in alignment. So I'm just going to select those individually, line these up kind of like we did the last ones, and the process is similar here, but we're going to click on the item first, and then you want to come over here. You're looking for this vector edit node. This is going to be similar to the last one, but the commands are different. You basically hover over and it gives you the options to work on certain items. So if I zoom in here, you'll see if I go to the corner, it changes to move command. But if I mouse over the line, it has that pen tool and a dot. And that's basically saying, okay, I want to insert a node here because that's what it's looking to work with. So again, I'm going to go ahead and add in some nodes. We'll go ahead and add in about 5 here. And then we can come back and grab each one and move them around. So I can drag these down again in whatever shape and format. And if you want, you can move these as well. This one gives you these nice guidelines so that you don't inadvertently move it up like this. So it's a little bit easier to play around and slide with these as well. But again, kind of get them to where you like them. Do that across all of them, and then we will move ahead. So once you're done with the original vector, you got to hit done, move over to the next one, come back, hit node edit, and we can do the same. All right, so we have all those in there ready to go. Again, we want to come back to our import tool, go ahead and grab our jack-o'-lantern faces, bring those in, and here, I mean, if we want, we could select a different one. So I'm going to go ahead and delete. Just, oh, we got to ungroup these. Always watch out for that. Ungroup those, grab whichever one you want, drag it onto the face that you want, and then we can get rid of these other two. Now, again, we're going to need to position all these according to our material. So in the case of using like 12 by 12 material, probably going to need to do 2 or 3 cuts. Doing 2 faces at a time might be able to sneak this one in, but we'll go ahead and get those set up in each program, send them off the lasers, and then we'll talk about gluing these up. So we're going to go ahead and use the Rolly Lasermatic MK2 on the 30 watt setting. This does a pretty good job of cutting out this Baltic birch at about 500 millimeters a minute at 100% power. And we're running about a 0.1 millimeter kerf, and it's cutting out pretty clean. We've got all our parts cut out, and I even had some extra space on my material, so went ahead and shrank it down to make an even smaller one. And that's the beautiful thing about these projects is when you design them yourself, you can go back in and rescale them down, remake them at a smaller size, just a nice little variety. So we're going to be gluing that one up as well. Wanted to talk real briefly about the glues and tools I use for things like this, more of craft assembly items. So the 2 glues that I would consider are either a CA glue such as this. This is a Star Bond. They have different viscosities, and most of the manufacturers will, but what I like about some of these is they have this thicker variety. It's going to allow you to get into all the box joints, get the glue in there without it just running down, and actually can have a little bit of a gap filling feature as well. And then you can combine it with some accelerator that makes it a very fast way to assemble these. Now, the downfall of using those is this glue doesn't soak into the fibers as much, especially when you use that accelerator. It creates more of like a crystalline joint that just is on the surface and such. So over time, it's going to be a little more brittle. And in craft items like this, not as big of a deal, but when you're talking about box joints and it's something that might move around more, something that you're gonna, maybe a keepsake box on your desk, I might not opt for this. These crafty type items, short-term use, definitely is an option. It's gonna help you move along quicker. However, it's also easier to make mistakes as the CA glue will set up fairly rapidly, even without the accelerator. Now, the other option, of course, is wood glue, and there are many varieties out there. What I look for in the craft type objects would be something that is more of a white type of glue, one that is going to dry more clear or at least translucent. A lot of your typical wood glues are very strong. They soak in. They have some nice, maybe even water resistance properties, but they have a little bit of a yellow to a brown tinge to them. And as they dry, that will sometimes even get darker, and it kind of can ruin the project. These are two I like using. They're from Type Bond. The one is Quick and Thick. The other one is Speed Set. They're both very similar in the fact that they are white. They do set up faster than your typical glue, but they aren't necessarily meant for outdoor long-term, a lot of exposure to moisture. The difference between these two, Quick and Thick, is in its name. It's a thicker, more viscous glue. It's going to allow you to get into those box joints easier without it running. And the Speed Set is just more of a thin, regular type wood glue. You might get a little more running, but it also isn't going to bunch up as much. So that's the style of glue on these I'm going to use mainly for that clear drying tendency as well as the faster drying tendency. Now, a couple other tips I like to throw in there when gluing them up. I like to use these silicone brushes. They have usually two ends on them. One's going to be more just kind of like a little spade spreader. The other side is going to be this kind of noodle end on here. And these are great for applying glue. The spreader will allow you to kind of spread out or even clean out in joints. And then the noodle side just really kind of mixes it up and makes sure that it gets all over. It's kind of like a brush for applying it. But the beautiful thing about these is as the glue dries, it will not stick to this material. You can pop it right off. You can pull the glue even off of these little silicone noodle ends, and it's ready to go after that. Along with that, just Dixie cups, squirt out a little bit of glue in here. That way you can kind of dip your brush into that, get it in there. It just helps speed it up, especially when you're doing multiples, and you're not gonna over squeeze onto the material. Then finally, some blue painter's tape. This is a workshop's friend for a lot of things, and in this case, we're gonna be using it a bit as a clamp. We can go around the edges, kind of hold them together while that glue sets up. Finally, paper towels. Everybody should have these in your shop. Anytime you're dealing with glue, these are great. Have it on hand, get it before you need it. That way you can clean up any squeeze out that you need to get out of your way and move on. All right, let's get to the glue up. I'll get them all taped up and we'll see how they look when we're done.
All right, so you see we're gonna squirt a little bit of glue into that cup, and then I'm using kind of the spade end of the brush just to get into all the box joints on a couple ends. I'm going to be doing a side piece and a bottom piece here first, and then using that tape as a clamp. That just kind of gets things squared up and starts making sure they're being held in kind of right angles. So we're gonna go ahead and add the next piece, adding the glue into the box joints there and a little more tape, and then we can go ahead and complete that last panel. A little bit of glue, a little bit of tape, and it'll be ready to go. All right, so on the smaller one, we're going to go ahead and use the Starbond CA, and I see I'm just kind of trying to get that base piece in there. I use one of the pieces to, again, try to get it right at a right angle. As this cures up, it does get kind of brittle, so just going to work around with the pieces, getting the glue into the box joint, sometimes reinforcing the edges there, and hit it with a little accelerator at the end, and we're good to go.
All right, they're all assembled. I even cut out a larger one yet, just to kind of show you can play around with the size, have some fun with it. But went ahead and painted a couple as well. This is just some simple 50-cent craft paint. It's even pumpkin color, simple foam brush, and just painting with the grain. I could probably go another coat on this just to really fill in the grain, not be quite so splotchy, but that's all up to you. This would easily be a craft that some kids could do. You could use white glue and some rubber bands or tape to hold it together, let it dry, and then let them go at it with paints. It's a little big for the paint markers, but you could obviously do that. But this is a very inexpensive way to personalize them and dress them up a bit. So feel free, have fun with it, and be creative. We've got them all assembled, and now it's time to pick the way we're going to light these up. These being kind of standalone units, trying to go with some battery operated options. So came up with a few things.
Of course, for the smaller ones, we can get some little battery operated tea lights. These are some actual Halloween ones that I picked up at a local craft store. And of course, they have more of a flicker to them. It's a little bit yellowish orange, so you know that'll add to it. And these are great for these smaller ones. You can just drop them in there, get them sitting upright, and then they will do their job. Now, for some of the bigger ones, you might want to opt for a slightly larger option. You can find these more votive style candles. And so these be a little bit brighter, reflect a little more light. This set that I got, unfortunately, they're more of a white light than a kind of a yellowish flame light, but that's okay. We'll work with that. And then these kind of glow a little bit more. These are going to be better for your middle-sized ones. So again, you can just go ahead and drop that in there, and that'll start glowing that up. Or you can opt for these LED pucks. And I picked these up. You can get them that are just white. These take AAA batteries, so they're a little bit easier to recharge versus the little button batteries in those. Now, this style actually comes with a remote, and so we can go ahead and turn it on. And we have a few selections of colors. There isn't an orange so much. There's a kind of a soft white. But of course, these are going to work well in this even larger set. And lots of different ways to light these up. Check out some links I have down below for some of these. You can check out your big box stores for some of these puck lights, but adds just a little bit of fun to them as well. So as you can see, we've got the lights off, and the two with the LED pucks, they're very bright. They actually, with the wood tone to it, have a nice orangish glow, I think. So nice to see that. This middle one with the votive and the bright white, maybe not as bright, but I think as it, if it was like on a dark porch, it would probably show up pretty well. Or you could add a couple of them there, but do a little playing around. I mean, the package of those, I think it was 6 of them for like $9, so you're not out a whole lot of money. And surprisingly, these little tea light ones are glowing pretty well on their own. So it doesn't have to be very expensive to light any of these up, and have some fun, dress up your porch, patio, your doorstep for Halloween this year. So hopefully I taught you something and you can jump in and design these for yourself. If you'd rather, you can just go ahead and grab the files. I will have them linked down below to my Etsy shop where you could pick up the digital files and just start cutting away. I'll have them set up for 1/8" material. If you need them for 1/4" or others, you're going to need to adjust the slot and the tab sizes there, but that's not too difficult to do, at least with Lightburn. And hopefully you have some fun with this. I'll be doing more project videos like this, try to be inspirational as we get through the holidays. We've got Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, so trying to keep some more of these coming. And if you're new here, want to see those, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you stuck along this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching the whole video, and I will have more in the near future. But in the meantime, go ahead and check out some of my other videos, and we will hope to see you soon. But most importantly, I hope you can get out into your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.